Alright, so this is a pretty short, older book here called A Day in Ancient Rome, and you can see it's got this this sort of faded green color to it with a decorative cover, and it's got that gold design on the front there. There's nothing really on the spine, and on the back you can see there's sort of this embossed sort of star design on the back there. And there's also some crayon marks or some colored pencil marks on there from some past person who owned this. I can't quite tell if there's some faded gilding on the edges. It doesn't really look like it. And you can see that corner there is pretty frayed as well. Yeah, so the cover there, it's got that gold Colosseum gilded on the front, and then trying to open it here to the first page. The pages are kind of hard to get to just because of that frayed corner. So this is the title page here, and you can see it's by Edgar S. Shumway. So this is from 1885, and it's A Day in Ancient Rome, being a revision of Lore's Aus dem Alten Rom with numerous illustrations by Edgar S. Shumway, professor of the Latin language and literature, Rutgers College, principal of Chautauqua Academia of Latin and Greek. From the very soil of silent Rome you shall grow wise, and walking live again the lives of buried peoples. It looks like that's J.A.S. Not sure who that is. And then there's a French quote here. It looks from Balzac. And yep, so this was published in 1885, so it's quite old. And here's some additional information about a journal I think this was part of. And then there's the preface here. And this is basically just kind of an introduction here. Looks like it's saying that there's some information or some liberty taken from the source material. And there's a few different maps in here of certain local areas in Rome. So this is one of them. Here's the first chapter. So A Day in Ancient Rome, it says, "In Rome I often think of you and wish you, too, might tread the squares and streets through which have walked the Roman authors, whose works you are studying, as well as the men of whom they speak. The Latin historians, orators, and poets, from Nepos to Horace and Tacitus, would become much more familiar and dear to you if you could see where they lived and wrote, and out of the dead letters living forms would arise if you could read them in that place to which they carry you in spirit, that is, in Rome itself." So the whole purpose of the book is just to kind of introduce younger people to what it's, I guess, sort of the history of places in Rome and everything, and just to give you a sense of what it's like to be there, I suppose, so that you're inspired to learn more about it and more about the history. So here's a really detailed engraving. It's the interior of the Pantheon, it says there. And there's just so many images in this book. It's just kind of really well decorated here. So there was a little bust of Livy, I believe, there. And then here's another really detailed engraving. Looks like it's the Forum in festal attire. So this is the Roman Forum, a depiction of what it would have looked like back in ancient Rome. And so I'm just sort of working through here, taking a look at all of the different images they have. They have a different detailed image on sort of every other page in this book. It's a pretty short book, but it's got a lot of detail. So here's the Arch of Severus, a Roman arch. And yeah, you can see all of the details in there, even though it's just a really fine engraving. And they've got little snippets of poetry from famous authors there, famous poets. All right, there's an image of a bust. Here is Marcus Tullius Cicero, so that's Cicero, or Cicero. And here is another engraving. This is the West End Forum, it looks like, is what it says. And here is the West Forum in the time of Severus. You can see the forum where the immortal accents glow, and still the eloquent air breathes, burns with Cicero. That's a quote from Byron, it looks like. And there's a lot of just sort of text added in for flourish to kind of give sort of a romantic sort of picture of these places. And here we have some temple ruins. It looks like this is the Temple of Saturn and the Temple of Vespasian. And we've got a note here. It says, opposite the high stairway which led to the Temple of Saturn, a small temple was built by Domitian in honor of Vespasian. And that looks to be this one here, just shown from a different angle. These just have so much detail to them. And here is a Marcus Antonius, and you can see somebody put dots on his eyes there with a colored pencil or something. And actually on this image of the right of Trajan, it's also got marked eyes, so somebody, probably I'm guessing a kid who owned this book in the past, just colored in the eyes like that. And it's interesting because these old books, we feel like they're so delicate these days, but back when people had them and they were just like a school book or something, they doodled in them just like we do now. So here's some more engravings, and yeah, there's just one on like every page. And here's a picture of some wax tablets. This is what school children and people who had to take notes on the fly would use. They would use a wax tablet and a stylus to write things down. Here's another image of the forum from, I think, a different perspective there. All right, some more temple ruins there. Yeah, there's a lot of information in this book, even though it's pretty short. And it's probably not the best book for kids, since it's kind of dense and it has all this poetry and everything. But it is interesting for older folks to go through and read, and since it has all these pictures, those can be exciting to anybody. The temple of Castor and Pollux was so spacious that often the sessions of the Senate were held there, and the statesmen liked to address the people from the steps of the sanctuary. Julius Caesar especially liked to talk here, and in remembrance of that, Augustus had a rostrum placed near the temple, which he built directly opposite it in honor of Dius Iulius. The front of this rostrum was adorned with beaks of ships captured at Actium. Just beyond was the Arch of Augustus. And here's Gaius Julius Caesar here, or Caesar. And there's the Temple of Castor. And Quintus Horatius Flaccus. Sorry if my Latin pronunciation is not so good. And here's another arch, it looks like, the Arch of Titus. Caligula on the left there, and then another map on the right. This is a depiction of Romulus and Remus nursing from this she-wolf is what it's called. But this is just a legend about how Rome got its name from Romulus. And you can see here, It's in remembrance of the wonderful rescue of the twins Romulus and Remus. And but at sight of the weeping brothers, the she-wolf forgot her fierceness herself and her young ones, and nourished the 2 hungry creatures with her milk. So there's just a legend about these 2 abandoned twins getting raised by this wolf, and one of them is where the name Rome comes from, which is Romulus. All right, another portrait of a bust there. Oh, and here's a beautiful image of a Roman garden scene with some birds and bird baths there. And there's this really beautiful mosaic pattern here, which I just think is so cool looking. All right, and we're getting pretty close to the end of the book here now, so you can see it's pretty short, not very thick, and then at the very end it's got this plate in the back and then some more scribbles there. It looks like some letters. All right, so that's a day in ancient Rome. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to, feel free to leave us a like or a comment, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.